Hey guys, just want to do a quick video here on that day one math exercise that we did. So I'm just gonna try my best to draw them out here where they're gonna make the most sense for you. So question number one was a fairly simple one. That was 5 foot 11 and 1/2 inches minus 8 inches. So the best thing to do here is just isolate the inches. So because we're just taking 8 inches off 11.5 inches. So right away, if I go to my answer side, I'm just going to write 5 feet because that's not going to change. And I'm just taking 8 inches off of 11.5. So that's just 3 inches, or you're left over with 3 inches. So 11 minus 8 is 3. And then nothing happens to the 1/2 inch because there was no fraction on this side. So 5 foot 3.5 inches is question number one. Question number two. That's 132.5 feet. And we're just converting this because we're looking for any decimals into feet and inches. So the 132 does not change. 132 feet. And then we're looking for 0.5 of a foot, which is half of a foot. And a foot is 12 inches. Half of 12 is 6 inches. So 132 feet, 6 inches. Question number two. Number three is 17 and 7/16 inches plus 33 and 5/32 inches. So again, on this one here, I want to isolate the whole numbers first. So if I take the 17 and the 33 and add them together, 17 and 33 is 50. And then I'm going to isolate the fractions and add them together. But I can't just add with the dissimilar denominators. So I'm going to take the 5/32 here. And then I'm going to make the 7/16 match the 5/32. So whatever the larger denominator is, you want to change the smaller one until it matches it. So because this is 16ths, if I just double it, it becomes 16, or sorry, 32, I should say. So 16 times 2 equals 32. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 17 times 2 is 14. And then I'm just going to add those together. So this becomes 14/32 plus 5/32. 14 and 5 is 19. So this is 50 and 19/32. But on the answers, they wanted you to convert this into feet and inches, or in the instructions. So 50 inches, the closest whole foot to that is going to be 4 feet, because 4 feet is 48 inches. So I'm going to convert this. So 48 inches is 4 feet. And then because this was 50 inches, that leaves over 2 inches. So that's going to be 4 feet, 2 inches, and 19/32. Right? Okay, number 4 is 44 feet minus 17 inches. This one I had to, it's a little bit harder to explain, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the 17 inches to feet and inches. So there's 12 inches in a foot. So if I take 12 inches off of that, that leaves me with 5 inches. So this now becomes, when I convert that, it becomes 1 foot 5 inches, right? So if I'm gonna subtract 1 foot off of here, that leaves me with 43 feet. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna just only subtract the whole foot off there first. So that leaves me with 43 feet. So now that leaves me over 5 inches. So now all I need to do is subtract 5 inches off of 43 feet. So again, a whole foot is made up of 12 inches. So if I took 5 inches off of 12, that leaves me with 7 inches. So it's going to be the next foot down. So it's going to end up being 42 feet, 7 inches. Because I've taken 5 inches off of the 43rd foot, right? And that's basically how that works. So you end up with an answer of 42 feet, 7 inches. I think I also said you could convert the 44 feet into inches as well. So if you did 44 times 12, that would give you how many inches there are in 44 feet. And then you could just subtract 17 inches off of that. And then you'd have to convert that again. You'd have to divide it by 12 to get it to feet. And then you'd end up with a decimal that you'd have to change into the inches again. So this way is definitely easier. All right, moving on to number 5. 19 feet 3 1/2 inches plus 22 feet 9 3/16. So again, if you isolate the whole feet, 19 plus 22 gives you 41 feet. And then I'm going to do the whole inches. So 9 and 3. 9 plus 3 is 12 inches or 1 foot, right? So I'm just going to add the inches here. I'm just going to turn it into a whole foot and add it on to that 41. So that gives me 42 feet. And then I'm just going to finally add the fractions together. And again, we're going to have the 3/16 here. And then I need to convert this 1/2 inch into where there's a common denominator. So if I was to change this to 16ths, if I double the 2, that makes it 4, and that makes that 2. And if I doubled that 4, it becomes 8, and that becomes 4. And then if I doubled 8, it becomes 16, and then that 4 becomes 8, right? So 8/16. So you just double, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So I kept doubling the bottom until it equaled 16, and every time I doubled the bottom, I doubled the top as well. So it matches. And I can tell it's right, because 8/16, 8 is exactly half of 16, which makes it a 1/2 inch, right? So then finally, I'm just going to add those together. 8, 9, 10, 11. So it ends up with 11/16. So the answer of number 5 is 42 feet and 11/16 inches. I'm just going to make a new page here. Number 6. 7/8 times 5. So if I had basically there's 2 ways of doing this. One is you can do 7/8 plus 7/8 plus 7/8 plus 7/8 plus 7/8, right? You can just add 7/8 together 5 times. Or what I did is I just added an 1/8 to the 7/8 to make it 8/8 or 1 inch. So 1 times 5 is 5, right? And so I've added an eighth on there 5 times. So that means I've added 5/8 to that. So now I'm going to subtract the 5/8 off of the 5 inches that I came up with. So 5/8 subtracted off of the 5 inches. Remember that there's 8/8 in an inch. So if I take 5 away, that leaves me with 3/8. So if I take that off, I'm going to end up with 4 3/8. All right, I'm just going to write that minus 5/8. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, number 7. Oh, this one is a good one too. 21 divided by 1/4. So equals. So whenever I'm dividing a fraction, I'm going to end up with a large number for an answer. So because this is a division, I'm not looking for what 1/4 of 21 is. 21 is 1/4 of a larger number. So basically what I'm doing is multiplying 21 times 4. Because I explained this earlier, but if this is a question mark, 21 divided by 1/4 equals this number. So this number times 1/4 equals 21. So it's a linear equation, and almost everything we do in here is linear equations. What it does one direction, it's gonna work with the all opposite. Either if it's division, it's gonna work multiplied the other way. If it's addition, it'd be a subtraction the other way, right? You can work any of these equations backwards and forwards. So, and if you're multiplying any whole number by 1/4, what you're doing is looking for 1/4 of something. So if I had $1 and I wanted to know what 1/4 of it is, like if I went 1 times 1/4, I'd end up with 20 or 0.25 or 1/4 of that dollar, right? 25 cents. Because a 1/4 is, as a decimal, is 0.25, right? Actually, that's something I haven't explained yet. So any fraction you see is an equation in itself. Like 1/4, that's just 1 divided by 4. So if I did that on a calculator, 1 divided by 4 equals 0.25. Any fraction like that. 7/8 is 7 divided by 8. 5/8 is 5 divided by 8. And you'll end up with a decimal form of that fraction. But and any fraction you ever see is going to be less than 1, right? Less than 1 whole number. So anyway, if I multiply 21 times 4, that gives me, 84 inches. Or actually just 84. There's no inches in this answer. And that's a good way to check your answer too. So if I went 21 divided by 1/4 equals 84, then 84 times 1/4 should equal 21. So if you ended up with an answer that was smaller, like if you got 1/4 of 21, which I know some people did, you'd end up with a real small answer here. And then that small answer times 1/4 wouldn't equal 21 anymore, right? So it's a good way to check your math. Okay, moving on to number 8. 44.5 divided by 4. So again, this one I isolated the whole number from the fraction. So 44 divided by 4 equals 11. And then the 1/2 inch divided by 4. It's important to know what a 1/2 inch is made up of. So if I made it so there's going to be 4 sections to this, because right now it's 1/2. So if I made it where the numerator is 4, then what happens to the bottom, right? So if I double the bottom, it ends up being a quarter, right? Or 4. And if I double the top, that is 2/4. And if I double that again, that becomes 8, and the top becomes 4. So 4/8, right? That's the same as a 1/2 inch. So now that there's 4 on the top, that ends up, if I divide that by 4, it ends up being 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So anyway, a 1/2 inch divided by 4 is going to be 1/8. But I'm just taking the 4/8 and making 4 of them, right? Let's see, moving on to number 9. 1, 2, 3, 4 divided by 12. So this one, I explained before, was a difficult one for me to do initially because 12 does not evenly go into 1234. The fastest way I think to get to the answer on this one is to simplify it as fast as you can. So right away, if I just imagine this is 1200, how many times does 12 go into 1200? It goes into it 100 times. So right away, I'm going to have an answer that's going to be close to 100. Okay. So then if I take the 34, and how many times does 34 or 12 go into 34? Well, it doesn't go in 3 times because 3 times 12 is 36. So it will go in at least 2 times. So that means plus 2. So 12 goes into 1234 102 point something times. So the point something is the tricky part of this question. So I know I'm really close with that 102. If I actually do the proper longhand math here, if I went 12 into 34 like that, I end up, because I'd start off with 2, and then I'd have to do a decimal here because it goes 24, and that's going to leave me with 10. And I have to drop a 0 here. 12 goes into 100 8 times. So that's 96. And that's going to leave me with 4. And then another 0 here, drop down. That gives me 40. 12 goes into 43 times. So that's 36, which leaves me with 4, right? And you can tell now it's going to be 40 every time. So this decimal, 8.3333, it's going to be continuing for infinity. So now we already dealt with a 2, right? 12 went into 34 at least 2 times. So that's where I put that 2 up there. Now we're left over with this decimal. So that's where I'm going to end up with my fraction of an inch. So I know it's 102.83333 times that 12 will go into 1234. So now to convert that to a fraction, I'm going to go 0.8333. I'm just going to use 3 of them. That's plenty for me to figure out this equation. And I'm going to multiply it by a denominator. So if I choose that I want to find out how many 16ths it is, so the denominator is going to be 16, I'm going to multiply this number by 16. So if I put a 16 on there, 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 0, 3, 3. Yeah. So I end up with and then I need to go over 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I end up with 13 sixteenths, right? The 13 is the big number that I got at the end of all this math here. Because this 3 here is less than 5, I'm going to leave that at 13. It doesn't need to round up or anything. So I'm just going to take that 13, move it up there. So I have 102 and 13 sixteenths. Wait, sorry, there's no inches on that one. So the final answer, 102 and 13 sixteenths. Again, hopefully that makes sense. This one does require some longhand math, but some of it you can jump to pretty quick just in your head. Like I said, the 12 going into 1200, 100, 12 goes in 34 2 times, and then it's just this little bit of math here, and I was able to come up with my answer. Now, originally when I did this, I didn't think about breaking it down. I went straight ahead and I went like 12 into 12, 34, and I did all this longhand math, and it was long and convoluted, and I still came up with the right answer, but there are some shortcuts to make it a little bit easier. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, moving on to number 10. 34 times 3/4. So this one here, it's best to make this 4/4, right? Because then you're trying to find out how many quarters there are in 34. So it's basically 34 divided by 4, right? So 34 divided by 4 is 8.5, right? So there's 4 8.5s in 34. Now, because I'm only looking for 3/4, I'm just going to take that 8.5 and times that by 3, and then I end up with 25.5. I think, again, that's the easiest way to do that one. The other way to do it is to actually turn this into a decimal. 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. So then I can take that 0.75 and times it by 34, do some longhand math, and I'll come up with 25.5, so 25.5. That's a nice shortcut way of doing that question. All right, number 11 is 17 inches plus 39 and 3/8 inches. So this one is a pretty simple one. If you just isolate the whole numbers, there's no fractions on the 17 side, so the 3/8 is automatically going to be 3/8 over here. So it's just 17 plus 39, and that is, oh my god, why don't I remember? 40, 11, 56. 56 inches. So that's 56 and 3/8. Now, we have to break down something this big into feet and inches. So again, the nearest whole foot is going to be 4 feet or 48 inches. Because the next one is 60 inches, and this is obviously less than 60. So 4 feet is 48 inches. So I'm going to put the 4 feet here. So, and that's going to leave me 8 inches over, right? 56 minus 48 equals 8. So that's 4 foot 8 inches. And then we're going to put the 3/8 on the end here as well. So 4 foot 8 and 3/8 inches. That ends up being the final answer on that one. Number 12. 45 and 11 sixteenths minus 44 and 3 32nds. By this point, you guys probably know what I'm going to do. So isolate the whole numbers. 45 minus 44 is 1 inch. And then we're gonna isolate the fractions. So 3/32 here. We're gonna make a common denominator. So if I double the 16, that equals 32. And then if I double the 11, that equals 22. 22/32 minus 3/32. So it's just 22 minus 3 is 19 30-seconds. So that is 1 and 19 30-seconds. $13. 46 foot 5 and 5/16 plus 1 foot 4 and 11 30-seconds. Oops. Yeah, that's right. 1 foot 4 and 11 30-seconds. So again, isolate the whole feet first. 46 feet plus 1 feet is 47 feet. Isolate the whole inches next. 5 inches plus 4 inches is 9 inches. And then finally the fractions. So 11 30-seconds plus, and again, we're gonna turn the 5/16 into 30 seconds. So 16 times 2 is 32. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 30-seconds plus 11 30-seconds. So 10 plus 11 is 21. 21 30-seconds. So 47 feet, 9 and 21 30-seconds. And finally, our last question here. Actually, I'm going to do this on a clean piece of paper because the conversions at the end are going to take a little bit. So number 14, I got 56.789 plus 132.789. These are both feet. So first thing I'm going to do is isolate the whole numbers again. So 132 plus 56 is 188. And then I'm going to go 0.789 plus 0.789. And that gives me, actually I'm going to write this down here. So 0.789 plus 0.789 equals 1.578. So this is a whole foot. So I'm going to add that right onto there right away. So now this becomes 189 feet, right? So that leaves me with this fraction left over. And this is a fraction of a foot. And a foot is 12 inches. So now if I take that 0.578 and times it by 12, I end up with, I'm not going to do all the longhand math for you in front of you, but if I multiply all this together, I'm going to end up with 6.392 as an answer. So 6 is the whole inch, right? Because this is a fraction of a foot. So this is how many inches I'm going to have in that foot by multiplying it by 12 inches. So that means it's 6.392 inches. So I'm going to take that 6 inches and I'm going to put it up here in my answer because that's the closest whole inch. And now what I'm left over here is a fraction of an inch. So this one is where I'm going to choose a denominator of 16th inches again. So I'm going to multiply this by 16. So that 0.392 times 16. And when I work all that out, it ends up with 15, basically is the answer. So it's going to be 15/16. So that's where I end up with that answer of 189 feet in 6 and 15/16 inches. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys still have any questions with this math, or need even a better breakdown, maybe in person, just let me know and we can do a one-on-one breakdown of it. But I think that should cover it fairly well. And yeah, if you have any other questions, just feel free to ask. Okay. Thank you. Talk to you later.